My book of poems, A Window for a Home Without Walls, was released in June this year. I'm surprised by the reactions it's getting from around the world. From these reactions, I've learned more than I ever expected. I've discovered more than I ever anticipated. I never imagined that a self published book of poems written by a designer would inspire so many people from around the world to feel it, interpret it, and express it in creative ways in these difficult times. People have reached out to me telling me these poems have helped them heal and have hope. They've told me they want to share these with their friends and family. In this video, I welcome you to hear their stories in their own voices. I also welcome you to a new movement to spread curiosity, compassion, and creativity in these challenging times.
My sister is a first responder, nursing COVID patients with devotion. My mother sews protective scrub caps for her, stitching prayers for protection into each one. I take heart from Uday's poem titled Pandemic, in which he writes, "Suffer together, endure together, and one day we rise together." Together we can grasp the root causes and design solutions to address the humanity evolving confluence of the COVID-19 pandemic, social injustices, and the climate crisis. Like Uday, I am committed to using design in positive, profound, and poetic ways. An increasing number of us are working hard on transforming the global paradigm at this precarious moment in our precious planetary existence. A sea change in humanity's consciousness is imperative, and Uday shows us the way in his poetry. Namaste.
A lovely book of poems. A window for a home without walls. It prods, it provokes, it makes you pause with wonder, and in equal parts guilt actually, and fills you with illumination from time to time. Uday's genuine compassion for nature and humanity drips on every page, every single page. The idea that this universe is impacted by all of us through our tiniest moments of thought and action, as much as it impacts us in turn, that is a deeply moving one, and one that is a constant theme running throughout this collection. It is also what gives this collection its very distinct worldview, its very distinct voice. More than just poems, therefore, to my mind, these are life lessons imparted by someone with a keenly refined sense of what it means to be human.
I've been looking for ways to ground myself in these unprecedented times and been looking to things like meditation. I found them so helpful to meditate on. The words provided comfort and clarity and wisdom and inspiration.
With so much of anxiety and nobody really knows where we are going, Uday's poems are actually bringing a lot of hope, a lot of curiosity, and the fact that life is going to continue.
Those simple words in this current situation we are all living and sharing, those are very meaningful words.
I'm in the midst of right now working on something that's called integrated science and society. This book actually can be one of the connecting tissues that people can appreciate from irrespective of what their disciplines are.
There's times when it feels so difficult to say something, and still you have the feeling that so much wants to be said, and I feel like Uday's poetry says it all. So I've been looking for a way to connect and reconnect with my friends, and then I just said, why not invite them, to a collective poetry reading? And then I got so inspired by one line of Uday's poems that depicts a poem as an art of touching from a distance, and I thought, wow, how great is that? so we can all collectively hack in a totally different way, and we're not lost in, finding words for our individual journeys. We can just take his poetry and rest in our own presence and in each other's presence. So
when he sent me the poems, I read it and I was completely lost in an environment that made me reflect myself, what I was doing and what I'm doing, what I care for.
For music, I've worked with things like Emily Dickinson or Robert Frost, Ezra Pound. Like what's in this poetry is very different. It was very direct and very humbling, I felt. Yeah, I'm trying to recreate that feeling as best I can through music. And I thank Uday for lending me his words.
Uday's collection is a journey towards that true being, reminding us of the need for windows that can let in the compassion, the wisdom, and the empathy we all seem to need today to survive the uncertainties of this time.
Udayji reminds us that we have a conscience in our heart. So we have to have a home without walls which will accommodate everyone. But that also cannot be without a framework of vision. And that vision will always be of human rights and human values.
As I read this book, images of a feather floating by, images of a rock on which I might have stumbled, images of a leaf that flutters down from the sky onto the ground. These images, these words, these texts, they take me out of myself into the world as I engage in this world, but they also take me within, they take me inside. And I care for these things outside of me because they mean something deeply to me. And as I encounter these things outside in the world, they are encountering me as well. It is in such times of crises when it becomes so apparent, so real, and so stark that it is scared that we need more than anything else in the world.
Uday invites you to look into a window for a home without walls, and you may find that your own home is much like his. And often, the answers we seek are found within. We seek to solve the mysteries of the world, but fail to discover the world inside ourselves.
Your poems convey a sense of stillness and a deep state of flow. How did you learn to cultivate those paths inward to the truth within?
I'm a design researcher and I travel around the world to have a dialogue with people about things that matter to them. Through years of this dialogue, I've learned that after all, what people are looking for is meaning in what they do and what they create, how they work and how they live. And there's a sense of restlessness in how people live right now, how they've been living. And through this dialogue, I began to question myself. And this sense of questioning got me to sometimes remove myself from my daily routines, go on a bike ride, go on a drive to the mountains, look at San Francisco from a distance, and start looking for answers to this meaning-making craving. And that's where my inner feelings and inner thoughts began to have a dialogue with me. And that's where this realization and this awakening happened.
You have visited nearly 50 countries. In what ways do your unique experiences of people and cultures permeate your poems?
One thing I realized is that when you go directly to people, look at the diversity of cultures, diversity of ideas, diversity of behaviors that exist in the world, you begin to find two things. You begin to find a common thread that runs across that diversity, which are basic human aspirations and values, but you also begin to respect the diversity of cultures. I also realized that when we get influenced by media, by other people's writings, stories, we begin to have a biased view of certain cultures, certain communities, certain people. But when you go out and meet them, you begin to see that after all, there is a lot that binds us together. We are humans, we are connected to nature, and we are meant to evolve. And I guess COVID is giving us that reminder that we are all connected And whether we survive and thrive or we perish will depend on how much we care for each other.
Your book is being savored on the street corners, in cafes, parks, and homes around the world. What stories have readers shared about the poetic effects of your verse in this strange time of social distancing?
Honestly, response to my book and to my poems was a big surprise to me. I did realize that these poems came serendipitously to me. I didn't write them with intention. Then I started getting responses from people. There was a music for mindfulness practitioner from Hawaii. She said she got a feeling of healing from these poems. There was a therapist from San Francisco area who said he's going to use these poems and gift the book to one of his patients who's losing his memory, and he felt these poems would become his companion. All of these experiences make me feel that pandemic has created an awareness in people that there's something much deeper that needs to be explored, and we need to use this opportunity to heal, to have a hope, and to create a new future that's based on caring for each other. This is a reading of my poem, Pandemic. It's time to go back to the basics, to be polite and maintain distance, say namaste and speak softly so we contain our own energy. It's time to be mindful of the consequences of our actions. We may be young, strong, and healthy with thriving immunity, but we must know what we bring home. For even though we may suffer in social isolation, we may risk the lives of our dearly beloveds. We will be safer in an air of altruism. It's time to be austere, to consume less and conserve more, share our time and labor. For even though in shortage of paper dollars, energy and time will thrive, that we will have more to learn. In this, we expand our imagination, we have more energy to tinker with ideas for a better future. Suffer together, endure together, and one day we rise together. It's time to reflect, reboot, and reinvent. Take what's left to invest in the new future.
Poetry gives design wings to soar into our souls. There, in the communal space of the sacred, we come into relationship with all that is, and our collective imagination gives form to what must manifest to bring us back into wholeness, health, and holiness. Uday's poetry gives us a remarkable experience of what a regenerative future can be like when we, as a unified humanity, co-design life-revering miracles.